Good evening and welcome to your yin practice this evening. Welcome to those who haven't joined before. If you have joined, it's really nice to see you again on your mat. So tonight we'll be doing an all-body yin session, and the props that we'll need are two blends here. You can keep the bolster low, or you can prop it up a little bit on the blocks. Do whatever feels good for you and your body. Find your setup, and then when we're ready, bring the knees nice and wide and the big toes come to touch, and then just settle the body down. You can either bring one ear down or bring the forehead down, whichever feels most comfortable for you, and then just settle here. So arrive here on your mat this evening towards the end of the working week, and just dedicating this time to yourself on your mat. So dedicating to both your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental body. And then keep the shoulders nice and soft, closing down the eyes, and just allow your body to sink into the bolster. So everything's becoming heavy. We've got a sense of grounding through the body, the legs, the hips, rooting down towards our earth. And then just connect to the breath here. So where are you feeling the breath within the body this evening? And breathe in deeply. So as you breathe in through the nose, imagine that the body is expanding. So you're creating this lovely expansion within the body, the space. And then the exhale, softening and surrendering the body. And then take your awareness to the back. And as you inhale, think of this breath traveling down the neck, the shoulders, the mid-back, the lower back, maybe into the hips. And then exhale, surrender. Release anything that no longer serves you. It could be mental, emotional, physical, let it go. And just noticing if the belly's allowed to expand. So we want this sense of inflation through the belly, not drawing it in, not holding on, which we often do. Just this rise and fall as we inhale and as we exhale. Good. And then take the head in the opposite direction, just to balance through the neck. Keep that breath connection. If the mind starts to wander, come back counting the breath. Where can you surrender? Where can you release? Bring your awareness to the physical body, just noticing if there's any areas that you're subconsciously holding on to, which we often do, storing tension that's being built up. We store it within the physical body, but it could be related to mental or emotional stuff. Good, 2 more breaths here. Good, and then inhale, slowly pressing up off of the bolster. So we're going to come to our forward fold. So just removing the blocks to one side, removing the bolster. And there's options here. If you know you're quite tight in your hips and your lower back, you can bring the blanket underneath you. That's quite a nice way to just help the pelvis tilt just a little bit. And then bringing the bolster, you can either bring the bolster on the legs and then prop the blanket on top, roll it up to allow the head to rest on something. Or what you can also do is place the bolster on an angle between the legs and place one of the blocks sort of halfway down on the medium setting, and then one of the other blocks on the tall settings towards the top. You can still use a blanket and then allow the head to come down to rest. So we want the head and the neck to be totally supported here. So a curve through the spine, and just make sure that the legs are nice and soft. So we don't want to be holding on. We want to be passively folding here. So opening through the lower back, the spine here, and the back. So when you're ready, bring the forehead down. And we're just going to pause here. Allow the breath to flow freely around the body. Especially if there's any areas here that you're thinking, oh, I feel a little bit of tension there, a little bit of tightness. Explore the space with the breath. So the inhale creates openness. The exhale softens and surrenders. Ease through the jaw. Noticing if you're clenching the teeth. And maybe part the teeth and part the lips, and gently allow the jaw to sway side to side. This can be a really nice way to ease any tension. Allow the belly to move as you inhale for that inflation. Then the exhale softens. So you want to come into deep belly breaths here rather than short, shallow chest breathing. Which we so often do, especially when we're not consciously connecting to the breath. And if you quite up in your head, you've got stress, anxiety, then we're often chest breathing. So really bring that awareness to the deep belly breathing. And then find your pause, find your stillness and silence. Just check in with the different body parts. Are you holding on? Where can you let go? And consciously tell yourself, either find a word that suits you, that resonates with you. Surrender, ease, soften, let go, release. Give yourself permission to do whatever of those sits comfortably with you. Good. Just here for a bit longer. With that heaviness through the sit bones, grounding down. Everything is nice and heavy. Just allow gravity to draw you down rather than any force here. Good. 5 more breaths. Last breath here. Good. On your next inhale, slowly rising up. Good. And just pause here for a moment. Allow the head to restack. Good. Maybe take the shoulders up to the ears and back down a few times. Good. Nice. And then we're going to come to our wide leg forward fold here. So I'm going to turn to face you so you can see the setup. So quite similar to what we've just done, but our legs are wider. So you can stay sat on the blanket if that's comfortable. So here we don't want to come into an active wide leg forward fold. So don't take, not taking the legs to their foot, the hips to the full range. So again, you can use a bolster, find your setup. If you quite open through the hips, you can bring the bolster straight down. You can pop it up a little bit or have an angle. Do whatever feels good for you. And then we want the legs to be nice and soft here. So not normally when we come into our wide leg forward folds and the powers, the vinyasa styles, then we want everything nice and active. But because we're being supported here, we're here for a longer time. We want to be as passive as we can. So find your position, and then when you're ready, folding over, allow one head, one ear to come down if that's comfortable, or the forehead. Do whatever feels good for you. So all of these are all of the poses. I can guide you through them, but it is all going to depend on your body. So listen to what feels good, listen to what doesn't feel good, most importantly, and make any adjustments. So make as many adjustments at the beginning before you find your pause, before you settle, so then you can come to your stillness and your ease for those next few minutes in the pose, okay? So when we're ready, folding down, bringing one ear down or the forehead, and just find that softness here. Deep breath in and exhale, release. Soften the jaw. Know your body weight is totally supported. So in yin, we want to feel a little bit of discomfort, but never any pain. And not going to our end range either. So we want to be able to stay in that pose for a couple of minutes, maybe a little bit longer, anywhere between 2, sometimes to 8 minutes, with an easy, natural, controlled breath. So no breath resistance, no retaining the breath. We don't want the limbs to be shaking, but maybe feeling what you would typically know or typically call a little stretch. Good. Find that softness through the body, but also that breath connection. Not forcing anything here, just an inhale through the nose and an exhale through the nose. Bringing your mind back if it's wandering. And then if you've got your gaze out in one direction, gently take the gaze in the other direction. Breathe in through the nose, and out through the nose. Know that your body weight's being supported. Try to let go where you can. That's often the hardest thing in the yin and the restorative styles is the stillness of the mind. So because we're in the poses for longer, our mind generally tends to chitter chatter, run away with the thoughts. So bringing it back and connecting it back to that breath is a really good focal point for the mind, but also enables that breath to flow freely around the body and also helps us soften into those poses. We're just here for a little bit longer, 5 more breaths here. Last breath here. Good. And then as we inhale, slowly rising, and just pause here for a moment. So allow the head to come back on top of the shoulders, the spine stacks again, and then just ease. Allow any adjustments to happen through the inner thighs, the hips, the lower back. So we don't want to rush out of these poses once we come out of them. Okay, so now start to bring the weight back. Bring your hands outside the knees. As you gently bring the knees, bring the legs back to center. Just pause here for a moment. Good. Close the eyes. 2 breaths here. Good. And then slowly opening the eyes. So coming into our our Baddha Konasana, a bound angle pose. So what we're going to do is bring the soles of the feet together. You can stay on the blanket. And then here we can use the bolster, the props. You can place the blocks underneath the knees for a little bit of support. And then we can bring the bolster down in front of you with the blanket on top to rest down on. If this is too much, then what you can do is take the blankets underneath and then use the props to raise one end of the bolster. So come to find your comfort here with the in this pose, and then when we're ready, once we feel we're supported, we're comfortable, then bring the forehead down to wherever you are taking it, to either the bolster, the blanket, and then come down here, find your softness. Soften the shoulders, the neck, the elbows, the arms. Return, connect to that breath. Find that ease and the stillness. Find peace. Soften into silence. And keep that breath connection. So every time the mind wanders, bringing it back to that breath. If it's not comfortable with the forehead down, then you can take one ear to the side. And then I'll guide you to change it. Around halfway through.
In through the nose and out through the nose. Good. If one ear is to the bolster, changing sides. Just here a little bit longer. Five more breaths. Last breath here. Good. And then as we inhale, slowly start to bring that head back on top of the spine. Good. And pause here. Breathing, connecting to that breath. Good. Okay, and then releasing the props off of you. Okay, so we're going to come to our pigeon now. So take the bolster to the top of the mat. You might need both blankets here, maybe your blocks. So we're going to start in our tabletop position. So wrists underneath the elbows, underneath the shoulders, and the knees underneath the hips. So from here, slide the right knee underneath the right wrist, and then begin to walk the right leg across to the left. Tuck the left toes under as you gently glide the left leg behind you. So find your base first. So if your right hip is not in contact with the mat and there's a lot of space, use your block or your blanket to prop up that right hip. Good. So the closer the right heel is to the left sit bone, the less intense it is, but listen to the right knee. The further or the more parallel the right shin is to the front of the mat, the more deeper you'll get into that left hip. Again, if there's a lot of gap between the left thigh and the mat, then you can prop a blanket just in front, just to prop you up a little bit. So you can either stay here or you can start folding down over the bolster, maybe prop it up with the blanket. So come to your relaxation, opening into that right outer hip, softening the neck, softening the shoulders. Good. Find as much space through the upper body and taking the breath to that right outer hip. So imagine you're taking the mind to that muscle, and as you inhale, you're inflating that muscle with your breath. And as you exhale, you soften and let go. Pause here, find that stillness. Allow the body to release anywhere where you're holding on to. Sometimes we're not aware of it, so that's when it's really useful to come into a body scan. So I normally start at my feet, working my way up, but you can just start anywhere and just take yourself around your physical body, the limbs, the joints, noticing if there's anything that you can let go of. Good. Just here for a little bit longer. Five more breaths here.
Make them nice and controlled, deep. One more breath here. Good, and then place your hands back down, gently press yourself up. So the exit out of this pose can be the most challenging, so just tuck the left toes under, glide the left knee in a little bit as you lift yourself up, and then take the right knee back underneath that hip. And pause here in your tabletop, just allow any shifts to happen. Good, maybe it might feel quite nice to take the hips a little bit side to side, but just not flinging the hips side to side, just a really gentle sway here. Good, and then preparing for the other side. So we're going to glide the left knee underneath the left wrist, slide the left foot towards the right, tuck the right toes under as we lengthen the right leg behind us, maybe taking a blanket underneath the left hip, in front of the right thigh. Do whatever feels good for you, untuck the toes, and then when we're ready, coming to your pose here. Good, so folding down, finding that softness. Good. Just allow the hips to become heavy, surrendering. There's still a lot of tension in our hips. Various reasons. So just allow yourself this time to surrender. Connect to the breath and come to stillness. Try to avoid any fidgeting. And always know that these poses are temporary. They're not permanent. It's only a couple of minutes and then we'll be out of the pose. This is when it's a mental battle rather than often a physical battle. Just a little bit longer. Where can you soften? Where can you become more heavy? Five more breaths here. Last breath. Well done. And slowly, with control, start to press yourself out of the pose. Tuck the right toes under as you gently draw that right knee in as you lift the hips. Bring that left knee underneath the left hip. Pause here in your tabletop, maybe bring a little gentle movement side to side through the hips. Good. Well done. And then pause here. Okay, so our next pose, coming into our hero's pose. So here you're going to have to be really mindful of your knees. Any knee issues, come to the first option. So options are, you can
Bring the bolster either flat down if you know you're okay in your lower back, you know you're okay in your knees. So it's all about playing around. So what we're going to do is we want to bring the sit bones to the mat and roll the calves away from underneath the sit bone. So this is already deep knee flexion here, okay? So if your sit bones aren't touching or it's really uncomfortable, you can roll a blanket up and put it underneath your sit bone to lift you up a bit. This is quite nice, it gives you a little bit of height. So this might be enough for you. We want to open through the fronts of the thighs. If not, we're going to basically come to lean back onto the bolster with the end of the bolster between the tailbone and the flat part of the spine. So options are you can either come down with it flat, this is quite a deep front thigh opener, or you can prop the bolster up at an angle, which just takes the intensity slightly away. So if you're doing that, use both props to come at an angle like that, so the bolster is supported for your body weight. So totally up to you, whichever option you choose to do. If you don't need the blanket, then don't use it, but you can also use it if you come all the way down. So when we're ready, bring your tailbone to the end of the bolster and gently bring the upper body down as we rest down. You can bring the arms down beside you with the palms facing up. So opening through the front thighs, but also a lovely opener for the chest here if you're on the bolster. The most important thing here is you listen to the knees and the lower back. Close the eyes, soften the face, soften the jaw, and come to that easy, natural, steady breath. In through the nose, and out through the nose. Allow the belly to rise as you inhale. This inflation sensation. And then exhale, you soften. Allow the shoulders away from the ears. Chin is slightly tucked so there's length in the back of the neck. Just a little bit longer here. Sit bones are reaching down, whether they're directly to the mat or on a blanket. Feel that you are heavy. Five more breaths here. Last breath. Good, and then if you're on your bolster, bring the hands to the heels, tuck the chin and gently help yourself up off of the bolster. And then bring your hands either side of your legs, press down into your hands and slide the legs underneath you. So we're coming to sit onto our heels. Just allow the spine to neutralize here, the hips to neutralize, and take that deep opening out through the front of the thighs. Close the eyes here. Bring your left hand to your heart, your right hand to the stomach, and connect to that breath. So maybe notice the heart beating under the left hand, the right hand rising as you inhale, and then softening as you exhale. Good, 2 more breaths here. Good. Slowly opening the eyes. Take the strap to one side. We're gonna need the strap actually when we come onto our back. So release the props to one side, and we're gonna come down onto our back. So we want to bring the bolster underneath the knees to start with. Good. And we're gonna roll down onto our back, and then here we want to lift the hips up and roll the bolster underneath the hip, or your cushion, or your pillow. Okay, so from here, we're going to come to our restorative child's pose. So taking the strap, draw the knees in towards the chest, and place the strap around the balls of the feet. And then lengthen the feet out to the ends of the strap, drawing the knees down so we can start opening into the hips. So this is a really nice way to access the full pose, but the pelvis is slightly tilted, giving you more space. But also we've got the strap, so you can have that position with the legs, but you're not bringing any tension to the neck and the shoulders. Good, and close the eyes here. Breathing into the hips. Good. Deep breath in through the nose. And out through the nose. Keep the jaw nice and soft. Just noticing what's going on. That breath connection. Good. That belly rising as you inhale. Maybe take the head side to side, easing any tension in the neck. Good. 5 more breaths here. Last breath. Good. And the next inhale, gently glide the feet up so they're in the center of the strap. Bend the knees, release the strap. And then ground the feet down onto the mat. Lengthen the right leg on the mat. This might be enough here. If you want to go a little deeper into the hip flexors, draw the left knee in towards the chest, interlace the hands, and hug the left knee in a little bit deeper. This can feel really nice over the right hip here, the right hip flexors. Good. Just 5 more breaths here. One more breath. Well done. Release the left leg. Draw the right knee in, and we lengthen the left leg along the mat. Either stay here or hug the right knee in towards the chest. Good. Breathing here into the front of that left thigh. Five more breaths here. Last breath. Well done. And release the right leg. Bend the left knee. And then ready for Shavasana. So lift the hips up, roll the bolster underneath the knees. Maybe take a blanket underneath the head. Maybe put a blanket on top of you. Get as comfortable as you can in your relaxation.
So find your comfort, come to a steady, natural breath, and just allow the body to just be. So be here in stillness on the mat, closing the eyes and finding that heaviness within the body. Ending your practice after your yin, dedicating this time to yourself. Good. Breath of life. I breathe in all that is. Awareness expanding to take everything in, as if my heart beats the world into being. From the inane vastness beneath the mind, I breathe my way to wholeness and healing. Inhalation, exhalation. Each breath a yes and a letting go, a journey and a coming home. So I'm going to leave you here in your Shavasana. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Hoping you feel balanced, you enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. As always, when you do come out, please move mindfully with care and compassion to yourself. Hopefully see you on the mat again soon. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.